Costco now sells Wagyu steaks for $100 a pound. Why would you purchase Wagyu steaks? What is Wagyu? Would you buy it from Costco? Are there different grades? Is it worth it to buy it from Costco? And how do you cook it? These are just a few of the questions that I'm going to answer for you today on A Warehouse Chef. Hey friends, my name is George Gianaris. I'm a chef of 35 years, and I'm here to teach you how to eat healthy, save money, and cook like a pro. If that's something you're into, click that subscribe button down below. It means everything to me. Tune in each week. I'm gonna release a video, usually on Saturdays. I was headed to Home Depot because I'm in the process of building a permanent test kitchen. On a previous episode, my wife expressed that she wasn't very happy about the fact that I've completely taken over her kitchen. So it's time for me to have a dedicated space to make these videos, and that's what I'm working on. And as I was coming back from Home Depot, I stopped at Costco to pick up a few things, and I find this in the freezer, Wagyu steaks, authentic Japanese Wagyu meat. At the bottom of this video, in the description, is a timeline with an index. You can click on those numbers and it'll take you to the parts of the video that you might be interested in. Or it'll bring you back to a point where you needed to just get a little bit more information. Take advantage of that down below. So what is Wagyu? Wagyu simply means Japanese cow. That's all it means. So why would you find Wagyu meat that's been raised outside of Japan? Well, we have also in this country American Wagyu, which is basically the same breed of cow that they use in Japan, but now it's bred in the United States. So what makes Wagyu beef so special? The thing that makes Wagyu beef incredible is the marbling. It's the ratio of fat to meat, but it goes a little bit beyond that. The fat to meat that you see on Wagyu is usually very thin. You don't get big fat streaks in Wagyu. The better the Wagyu, the finer the lines of fat that are in between the beef. Now, Wagyu beef is literally 50% fat. And you say to yourself, is that considered healthy? A lot of people who are on a low carb, high fat diet, this is like an amazing piece of steak for them, right? It's 50% fat. Of course, if you were to listen to your cardiologist, he would kill you for eating this steak, but there's different schools of thought on it. What makes Wagyu a healthy beef is that it is mostly grass-fed, or it is fed with, the most expensive Wagyu is actually made with olive leaf mash, because in Japan there's this orchard, an olive orchard, and they take their Wagyu so seriously that they only feed their cows the olive leaves, and that is supposed to give you the most expensive but most delicious Wagyu steak you can have. Why is Wagyu beef so expensive? The best American cattle, the most revered cattle in the United States, is called Kobe beef, and it runs about $3,000 per cow on the fair market. Wagyu is $30,000. The reason is because Wagyu beef, the cow itself, is fed literally 10 times the amount that a normal cow is fed. So how is Wagyu steak graded? This particular one here says Wagyu A5. First of all, it says Japanese Wagyu, which is super important as opposed to American Wagyu. This is like a national treasure. Their Wagyu cows are a national treasure. It's like it's almost like the samurai sword. It's very special, and it's extremely stringently monitored by the government. The first letter A means absolutely nothing to you unless you are a breeder. A just means it goes A, B, C, D. A would be the highest yield of meat from the cow. B would be worse, C would be worse. So A means nothing. Don't think that A means like prime or exceptional. It's just a marking that tells you that that particular cow had a high yield. The number that does mean something is the 5. 5 is the best Wagyu that you can get from a cow, the best quality steak. At $100 a pound, is this steak actually worth it? And would you buy it from Costco? So let's answer some of those questions. This particular steak is at the low end of the spectrum at $100 a pound. Wagyu that is not olive fed usually costs between $100 and $150 a pound. So if you look at the steak and you look at the marbling, you'll see that some of the marbling is much more thicker all around the steak. That's what puts it at the $100 end. The thinner the marbling is, the more expensive the steak is. So this is pretty much worth $100 a pound. So why would you want to buy it from Costco? Well, when you normally buy Wagyu steak and you spend $100 a pound, it's not trimmed all around. So you get big chunks of fat. Like if you were to buy a ribeye, there would be a thick piece of fat along the top and a thick piece of fat along the bottom. And if you cut that out and you weight it, you basically lose about 15 to 20% of the weight of the steak to that fat. Now, some people feel that that fat is really worth having because you can use it almost like a butter. It actually adds flavor. You can use it to cook eggs with it. You can use it to season the pan before you actually put the Wagyu beef on it. So me personally, I don't want that fat. There's plenty of marbling here. There's plenty of fat in the steak where when I cook it, I will enjoy that fat. I don't need any extra fat, especially to pay $100 a pound for fat that I'm pretty much not gonna eat. So yes, it's a little bit more worth it if you purchase it from Costco. Why Wagyu? It's more than just a status thing. If you were to go out and pick up a piece of steak that was prime, US Kobe beef, prime, excellent marbling, you'd probably pay close to $20 a pound for a porterhouse or for a ribeye. And if you were hungry, you could probably eat between 12 and up to 32 ounces of that steak. So that steak was gonna run you about $20 to $25 per person, depending on how much you eat. And you could eat, I could eat a 16-ounce steak. I could totally eat a 24-ounce piece of porterhouse, hands down. So what's the difference? Wagyu is 50% fat. You're gonna get really full on this steak really quickly. So at $100 a pound, you really just kind of cherish this and nurture it, and you're only gonna eat about a quarter pound of this stuff before you start feeling really, really full. I mean, you could eat more, but it's a very rich steak. So this steak for $100 a pound would feed about 4 people. $25 a steak. So is it worth it? Well, I think to try it once and to have this steak, I think it's worth it. There are a couple ways that I would go about cooking this steak. My favorite way is on a barbecue. I released a video a while ago on how to cook a steak on a barbecue without having to worry about flare-ups. And the link to that is up above. Click on that, you'll be able to see how I cook the steak that way. Today, I'm gonna cook this on the barbecue. The thing about Wagyu is it's hard to buy a thick cut. They usually are sold in thinner cuts. So this is gonna cook really quickly. And I highly recommend that you eat this at medium rare. So I would like to bring the internal temperature of this to no more than 120 degrees, because as it sits, it's gonna cook a little more. It's probably gonna go up to 125, which is medium rare. Preheated my grill here to 450 degrees. I'm gonna turn off the left side and I'm gonna lower the temperature on the right side a little bit. I want a little bit of heat to carry over onto the other side. So it's not a bad idea to let your steak rest at room temperature for a half an hour before you put it on the grill, up to about an hour. I would cook this with a probe because it's so expensive, you really don't want to mess this steak up. This is the kind of steak that you just want to showcase the flavor. You just want to put salt and pepper on it. Some people don't even put pepper. Just salt is a perfectly good option for this steak. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll be releasing a video again next week. Thank you.